Place masking tape in a pattern onto a bottle or container. Apply a thin layer of glue to the surface and sprinkle with a coarse flour like corn or semolina. Shake off the excess flour and let it dry completely. Once dry, remove the masking tape. You can recreate any design you like since the glue easily comes off with warm water. Here is a great tip for cutting cake neatly and in smaller portions. First, make a cut about halfway from the center. Next, carefully cut out an inner circle, slicing each portion as you go along. You can even make the portions smaller if you'd like. And once the outer ring is served, you can cut the center into quarters. Summer is the season for fruits and berries, so let's make some homemade popsicles. First, we'll add strawberries, cream cheese, and a sweetener into a food processor, and then blend everything together until smooth. Next, pour the mixture into small plastic cups. Our mixture isn't thick enough for the popsicle stick to stay centered, so we'll put 2 rubber bands around the cup and place our popsicle stick in the middle and then place the popsicles in the freezer for 2.5 to 3 hours. Before removing the plastic cup, we can place a cupcake liner around the popsicle stick. This will prevent any melted ice cream from getting everywhere, which is especially important for young children. We are very grateful that our viewers share their tips and tricks with us. Here is a tip from one of our viewers. We'll start by dissolving a good amount of salt in a bowl of water. Next, we'll soak a cotton napkin in the salty water, letting it soak for a couple of minutes. Wring out the clothes and let it dry completely. Now we have a stiff, rigid napkin that's great for sorting food for road trips and picnics. Here we have some chicken from the fridge that we'll wrap in a napkin, then cover it with parchment paper. This will keep food stored up to a day without refrigeration. It's not difficult to check the quality of milk. Pour the milk into a container and cover cloth or paper towel. Let sit at room temperature for about 2 days. High-quality milk will turn into a thick, cultured milk with great substitute for buttermilk. But there is also a faster way. Simply add some white vinegar to the milk and stir. If the milk begins to curdle immediately, then the milk is high quality. You can also use the recipe as a substitute for kefir. Let's make spinach grapes. We'll start by blending together spinach and water until smooth. Next, we'll add 1 egg, rice flour, oat flour, a pinch of salt, and the kefir from our last recipe. We'll blend everything together until smooth. Then we'll stir in some baking soda and let sit for 15 minutes. We'll be cooking our crepes using this non-stick pan without any oil. There is a link to this frying pan in the description. We want to let the crepe cook until the top side loses its shine. Then we'll flip it over and cook the other side for just 10 to 15 seconds. To make the filling, we'll mix ricotta or cottage cheese with a bit of sweetener. For a nice presentation, we'll cut off 2 ends of the crepe, so we'll just left with a rectangular shape. Now we'll spread on 1 thin layer of our ricotta, add the ends on top and then spread on another layer. We'll add some chopped strawberries to one end and then roll everything up. Our crepes are aesthetically pleasing and also very delicious. Here is a great way that the paper clip can help us in the kitchen. If we bend the pins like so, it makes a little stand for our phone. We can now watch our favorite recipe videos. The best way to store cheese is to wrap it in wax paper. Simply cut off the amount needed and wrap it up again. Frozen butter can be used safely for up to 1 year, but be sure to let it thaw when using. Otherwise, it will crumble when sliced. Next, we'll be making homemade Jell-O. Start by adding cherries into a pot and fill with water. Bring the water to a boil and boil for 5-7 minutes. Strain the liquid and fruit through a metal sieve and then mash the cherries with a mortar to press out the remaining juice. We'll then put the liquid back on the stove and bring it to a simmer. Next, we'll add sweetener, ground cardamom, and ground cinnamon. In a separate container, we'll prepare the gelatin. The ideal ratio is 10 ml of water to 1 gram of gelatin. Once the gelatin has thickened, we'll add it to our cherry liquid. Be sure to mix well. If the liquid comes to a boil after you've added the gelatin, that's okay. Once it cools, it will set nicely. To prevent the jello from sticking to the baking dish, we'll coat the sides with a bit of oil. Pour in the cherry liquid and let it cool before setting in the fridge. Add sweetener and vanilla to half and half and bring to a simmer. We'll thicken the gelatin in a separate container using milk and then add it to half and half. Mix well and then let it cool. Once the cherry jello has set, pour the milk onto the jello to create a second layer. We can pour onto a spoon to ensure an even layer. Place the dessert in the fridge until it sets completely. Here's an interesting way to slice the dessert. Wiggle the knife back and forth while making your cut. This will create a wavy edge that comes out beautifully.